Look at you, Miss Ember. What a lucky little dog you are to be sleeping so soundly here without paying a stitch of rent. As one of these disco records over here will tell you, ain't nothing going on except the rent. Boy, is that true in the city that I am sitting. It is 2017, and I am sitting in Long Beach, California. And let me tell you how we just got a dubious distinction. Guess what? Long Beach, California, as part of Los Angeles, California, and Los Angeles County, is now the place most in the nation. Nowhere else in the United States will you pay more of your income for rent or mortgage. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Come to beautiful Southern California, where 53% or more of your income to go pay for a dump. And I don't mean to be rude about that, but let's be real. There's some really great parts of LA, and there's some really not, and the really nots are now going for what the really nice used to. And you know this is the same way in your town all over America. You know you are feeling my pain, because unless you are retired and your house is paid off, if you're paying the rent, you know that most of your check is going to the rent. And this is unsustainable. It is the problem that no candidate's talking about. Certainly Trump wouldn't. I don't even think he pays rent. He didn't pay taxes. He collects rent from us often. Like at Mar-a-Lago, he rents out rooms to our Secret Service. Oh, and golf carts, $60,000 a weekend. Boy, you know when that Irma hit, I have to say, I was devastated. I was born in Miami Beach. And of course, I have family in Houston, so Harvey really terrified me. My cousin David and my Aunt Irene and Colleen. But I know it's wrong of me. It really is. But I just wanted Mar-a-Lago to be destroyed. Just destroyed so it could be a symbol from above. But instead, it wasn't. In any event, all across America, the Bay Area, out of control. Rents up there, oh my God. People are literally, I am not making this up, people are paying $1,100 to live in a closet. Now, honey, I haven't done that for years. I'm not going to go do it. And I'm certainly not going to pay someone to do it, okay? But up in the Bay Area, $1,100. Los Angeles, California, Koreatown. I know a girl right now renting a closet from 4 men who are roommates in a 2-bedroom. So it's 2 guys in each bedroom and the woman in a closet somewhere. This sounds like a sitcom. I mean, get John Stamos over here. You know, 4 men and a woman in a closet. And what is she paying? $500 a month. $500 a month to live in a closet.
Now, in my community, I've known someone for over 20 years who is a club owner. He is a realtor. He is a landlord. And he's just a person that's been trying to get by like everybody else in the crazy economy. And I thought he would be uniquely qualified to talk about things like cost of living, rent affordability, what can be done about it, and the economics of really getting by in today's world. So we're here at one of his clubs. It's the Paradise on Broadway in Long Beach, California. If you're ever in town, come by. Also, you own the Eagle 562 now. You started a Levi Leather Bar up in Northern and the Falcon, and then you own several properties, and of course, you're a real estate broker. So let me ask you, Mike, let's look at the plus sides. Is it good to be a real estate broker right now? Home prices in every market in the country, all top 30 markets, home prices are soaring. Is this a good time to be a realtor?
There's always pluses and negatives. Real estate is booming, prices are up. There's very little inventory, and it is more and more challenging to find a buyer a property, but we're doing it.
Now, let me ask you, how do you deal with the math of reality? Because, for instance, where we are now in Long Beach, we know the median income is right about $70,000. So if we do the math on that, it's right about $5,500 a month, meaning they should be about $1,800 or less for a mortgage. Are you able to put people in houses with that math, or are you having to do more creative math, or are they using 2 incomes to, to make sure that they're meeting? How is that math working out these days?
And 2 incomes is definitely probably more probable in buying a home right now, especially if you want a decent area. I have one of my bartenders is in escrow right now, 3% down, their very first home, and we lucked out and found them a great condo 2 blocks away from here.
The average person in America, according to all the figures right now in 2017, can spend about $250,000 in a home. Now, I don't know where y'all are watching this. You might say, wow, Karel, in my city, that'd be a great house. In the top 20 cities in the United States, of which I'm sitting in the 4th largest market right now, that's not so much. What could I get for $250,000 this side of Santa Barbara? from Santa Barbara down, what could I get for
In
$250?
Long Beach, you might get a small one-bedroom condo and a fairly decent.
We're talking like 500, 700 square feet.
Yeah, but a few things that are very positive for first-time home buyers. Interest rates are in the low 4%. Something like 30% of the population can get a loan right now and purchase. And sometimes your very first home is not your dream home. But you might get your foot in the door, and then in 2 years, you can call me and go, this has appreciated, we've been making our payments, we have more equity, we're ready to now move, 4 blocks from the ocean instead of being 12 blocks from the ocean.
You have been a realtor in this market for a long time. Back in 2008, did you see the crash coming? Did you say these loans are crazy? These people are making loans they shouldn't be? What's going on here?
I did not see it coming. A lot of people did, but yeah, things are just going up and up and up, and I didn't forecast.
Is that happening again now? Because a lot of people tell me we were precarious then, they were making weird loans, people were buying houses they couldn't afford, and then bam, it crashed. And nowadays it seems like the same thing's happening again.
I do not believe it is, and then back in 2006, Joe the gardener was buying $1 million home for 5% down and stated income. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Now the average buyer is putting 30% down. A lot of people are paying cash, and yeah, they're looking at their FICO.
And let's talk rentals. That's really, because LA Weekly did a cover story that said you now have to be rich to live in Los Angeles, $100,000 a year or more for a 2-bedroom apartment, because it's $2,500 a month. We had an interesting conversation. There are mandates now in many cities, and they're trying them here as well, that say if you're going to build something, let's say downtown Long Beach, or downtown San Francisco, or downtown New York, which New York is having a real problem with this, that you have to make some of those housing units affordable. So if you're building a 20-story building and you're going to sell them for $1 million, you still got to make some that the median income can afford. Now, as I said on my show today, they are doing that, but they're making those poor people feel like servants. They have to go in and out special entrances and, use different elevators and this stuff. What is there a responsibility? Because you know that people are getting priced out of areas, that there's simply areas. I could not sell my home and move to another house here in Long Beach. I couldn't. Well, let me rephrase. If I gave someone $200,000 down, they'd finance me, but on a $400,000 loan. But you know what I'm saying. It'd be difficult. So is there a responsibility nowadays to make affordable housing available in every single area of every single market?
Well, one thing I do want to point out, I think our mayor, Robert Garcia, Janine Pierce, they're all the city council, Rex Richardson, they're all trying to do something about helping low-income housing. And they are building new low-income housing.
We know the butt's coming, but get to the butt.
Okay, and I've never heard of a building where low-income people had to use a different elevator.
New York.
Okay, well, in New York, that's probable. But, and I do have my opinion about low-income housing, and it may not be the most popular view, but I feel, to me, it's the most realistic. So I'm going to share it with you. Yeah. And I did have a conversation with one of the previous city council about they feel that when a developer builds a building on Ocean Boulevard and it's $140 million, that 10% of that building should be for low income.
Right.
Okay? I disagree with that. And I'm all in favor, and please don't get me wrong, about housing for low income, but I'm like within reason.
In other words, you don't hate the poor.
No, exactly. Within reason, and maybe we can talk about rent control.
Well, and this is, I had this conversation today on air. I believe housing is a right. Okay, that's Germany, they already accepted it's a right. You have a right to housing. However, it begs the question, do you have a right to housing everywhere? In other words, can you tell the people of Beverly Hills, you gotta let some low-income people in here because that's just what's fair? When I grew up, I wanted to make a ton of money so I could live on Ocean Boulevard or First Street, or so I could live on Beverly Hills, because when I grew up, I knew that it was going to take a ton of money to live there. I didn't expect to make them open up the area to me if I couldn't afford it. Is that kind of what you're saying now? If you want a condo at the beach, you can have one, but you're going to have to be making the cash to support it.
Yeah, and instead of telling a developer that 10% of your Ocean Avenue condos on the beach need to be for low-income housing, how about saying you need to put some money in a fund, and we're going to revitalize an area over here that needs to be revitalized?
But doesn't that then speak that the poor can exist, just not they can exist over there?
It is very controversial, because now you're kind of saying, well, lower income people need to live in this neighborhood.
Right.
But again, should they live in $1 million condo and be paying $800 a month? I don't think that's the answer.
It's funny, because back in the day, I think that you and I, because of our ages, I think that we look at this in a different paradigm. We look at it in the old economy. And in the new economy, there's only 20% of America making more than $100,000, which really would mean that all of our primest areas can only be inhabited by 20% of America. When you have that kind of math, that's not right. But I also, how do I say this? I half-ass agree with you. I mean, I really, I don't think we should say to people, if you work hard and you do have benefits of your labors, that you have to share them. And when I say share them, what I mean is, yes, you should have to provide for the poor, like you said, but pay money, have a fund, create new housing, maybe do a rent control scheme somewhere or something. But you shouldn't necessarily have to have them right there next to you because you worked very hard to not be next to them. And that's cold and that's hard, but it's true. That's a motivating factor for humans to want to better themselves. And so if the playing field is completely equal and everywhere is equal to everybody, then why do you want to succeed? Why do you want to, So I get what you're saying. My problem is in this day and age, it's hard in practice because so few people have the resources. When you and I were a kid, there was a middle class. Our parents were probably part of it. And you could buy a house in a nice neighborhood. You could have not a junky car, but a nice car. Maybe not a Cadillac, but you could have a nice car. You could have a nice home in a decent... Now, you really either you have or you don't. And that's, I think, what people's problem is with when you speak like that. They're saying, well, wait a minute, but there is no middle. So the people that could have afforded that before, they don't even exist anymore. It's either the rich or the poor. And rent control. My friends in Santa Monica would be not living without it. They would be, living somewhere else if it weren't rent controlled. But you're also a landlord. How does all this affect you as a landlord?
Well, to back up just slightly, and again, there are 3% down conventional loans, and a medium income family or two
income
can actually buy something that is a decent, something nice to live in. So, and your payments might be under $2,000 a month. So it is doable.
In this time where we have people doubling up, tripling up roommate situations, people, as a landlord, you're a nice person. I know you. You're a nice person. You have some tenants even right here on Broadway, and they're struggling. And some of them aren't making it, and they can't make it. And so you then have to step in and say, I'm sorry, but you have to go. Because just like me in my roommate situation, when he couldn't pay his rent, I thought, I love you, but I can't carry you for 2 months because I have bills. And you as a landlord, you've got mortgage and property taxes and all these expenses. How hard is it for you nowadays to tell people, I'm sorry, but you gotta go? I mean, knowing that they're hurting, and yet you got to just sort of take that upper hand. How hard is that nowadays?
That would be an extremely hard situation. And I do try to work with my tenants, and sometimes they're just out of work for a month or two, and I can let them get slightly behind and work with them, and then they're back on their feet.
Do you find yourself doing that more today than maybe 10 years ago?
No.
So it's been the same for you?
Yeah, and Long Beach actually has some really good figures as far as employment. So the city...
I really thought it would have been more now. I thought it being as hard as it is now, you would see more people in arrears and more people needing help. But you're saying people are always needing help and people are always getting behind.
Yeah, and with me personally, no, it just hasn't happened a lot.
It just hasn't happened that way. Are you optimistic about what's happening in the market, in the economy, and in housing in general? Do you think Long Beach is going to make it through without some sort of major, or any city, San Francisco, New York? How do you see us getting out of the stratification that's happening because the rents are so high and people's wages aren't matching them? And how do you see that ultimately coming together?
I think it's going to be a struggle, but then there's also always some negative with positive.
Right.
And there are some areas, especially North Long Beach, or Vice Mayor Rex Richardson is doing some great things up there. And I think there's some neighborhoods that people haven't looked at in the past that they're going to start looking at.
In every city, don't you agree? In every city, I think people are going to start finding, where do you think we gays are going to do? We did here and we did Wrigley. Do you think we're going to infest some other place and take it over?
Possibly North Long Beach.
North Long Beach, yeah.
I just opened the Eagle 562 up there.
Way up there, Cherry Artesia.
And there's all kinds of plans for restaurants and coffee houses.
I could see that. I could totally see us central, because, we move in, we bring up the property values, and then we get kicked out, and then we gotta go someplace else.
I want to talk briefly about rent control, and again, being a realtor, and something that just recently happened to me this week is I do have a client who's in his 70s, his partner's older than he is. He owns a building in San Pedro. It's 5 units. It is rent control. The building needs $60,000 worth of roof work,
Renovations, yeah.
foundation, et cetera, his rents are so low he can't really raise them,
Can't do it, yeah.
and he doesn't have the money to fix it. So you can pull in, especially being a realtor, I can drive through neighborhoods and go,
If it's rent control, does the city give you guys money too? How does that work?
No.
They tell you how much you can charge,
right.
but they don't make up the difference.
No, they do not. No, Section 8 is totally different.
Right, that's different. Section
Yeah,
8
and I would be more unfavorable, and I have had Section 8 tenants.
You have taken, because a lot of people won't even take them?
Yes, I have taken them, and they were very good tenants. And again, with this particular individual, he can't get a loan on it because his rents are too low. It's going to be hard to sell because the rents are so low, and he's stuck. He's told to take.
You know, Bill Handel once told me, you'll go from a Democrat to a Republican with your first paycheck. That's what he once told me. And I have to tell you, being a landowner now, owning my home, I have been a tenant, I've been a roommate, and I've been a landowner and a landlord. And now that I see it on both sides, can I just say it's rough on both sides? I relate when someone can't pay or when someone gets behind or when someone needs rent control because they're poor. I get that. And then as a landowner at the same time, I think, yes, but you're making that really, really hard on me. So we have to find a solution as a society to make it easier on landlords and make it easier on tenants combined.
A lot of you have moved back home, or if you have a home to go to. A lot of millennials are back with their parents. A lot of families have doubled up. This is America, and it's not pretty. A report came out in 2017 that said in no state, as in ain't no state, in no state in this of United States can anybody afford the median rent on a 2-bedroom apartment. Not in one state. Because of the median incomes being adjusted for the state, you can't afford it. So what do we do? What do you do? What do I do? I don't know. You know, this episode, one of the themes, of the episode is being a landlord, paying rent. You know, I'm a landlord. Believe me, it's hard. It's hard. What do you do when a roommate doesn't pay? What do you do? Just throw them into the street? What if they've lost a job and then their unemployment runs out? What? You're not, going to be compassionate to them? You're going to come from a place of business and say, sorry. Plus, look at all the problems I never even thought about this. I had a friend looking for a place to live in Long Beach, which is like impossible to find a place to live in. And he said, do you know how much I spent looking for a place to live? And I said, you mean in gas? He said, no, in fees. I said, what fees? He said, credit checks, all that. He said, I applied at 20 places at $50 a spot. That's $1,000 to get turned down at 20 places. And that's legal. My town is starting to adopt a registry type thing where landlords pay one fee and then you pay one fee, whatever. But it's not going on yet. Why? Because everyone likes the way that this is. Landlords are, look, if I wanted to rent this very house that I'm living in, I could not afford to live here because it would go for $4,500 a month. My mortgage with taxes and insurance is $14,000. Add in $5,000 for the second, you're at $19,000. $7,000 for utilities, you're at about what, $26,000? So $2,600 a month for this 4-bedroom house. It would rent for double that. And honey, I only owe $390, and they say it's worth between $6,000 and $7,000. I mean, this is crazy.
Now, y'all know that you will lie about the last time you had sex with someone before you tell them how much you make for a living. And people, they blow that figure up like men do their penis size. How much do you make? Oh, I make around $80K. Isn't that 35 is nowhere near 80, but to you it is. Because that's America now. We don't want to admit that we're underpaid or not working. We don't want to admit that if we're under 40 years old, that like 60% of you or some huge number are living at home because you just can't make it out in the real world right now. In Los Angeles, the average 2-bedroom goes for $2,500 a month. You have to make $100,000 to afford that, either together or apart. So either you're both making $50,000, which is the median income actually, $55,000. In Los Angeles County, $55,000 or less is considered low income. Imagine that. For those of you that are 50 or above, I'll take the above, but not too high. I'm never too high. Imagine when you were 15 years old saying to yourself, you're going to make $60,000 $100,000 a year, you'd have thought you were a Rockefeller. You'd have been like, oh, I'll have a Cadillac. I'm Elmer J. Fudd, millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht. No, you're just getting by. So I thought on the show we would have real conversations, and as I've mentioned in other segments, Season 4 is going back to what Season 1 was supposed to be, which is my life in segments. And right now, one of the biggest issues in my life is paying bills, just like you, okay? This house we're sitting in, if it weren't for loan modifications, we wouldn't be sitting in this house, okay? And don't get me started about the 40-year second modification that they tried to make me accept, but we could talk about that on another show. So I'm just like you. I had to modify, rectify, do this, do that, got 3 months late on the payments, you know, the whole thing. I'm America. I have a roommate. My roommate's going through what a lot of you are going through right now. So I asked him to come and talk about it today, because why not? We talk about it over there at the table. We might as well talk about it over here. And then he has a friend going through the same thing. I went to the gym first time in a long time, sat on the jacuzzi. The older gentleman was telling the younger gentleman about how his son, the Marine, is living back at home, cannot find a job, and may get a job as a bouncer after being a Marine. It is rough in America in 2017. And if you're watching this in 2020 or 2025, I hope it's better for you, because it's rough right now. And I wanted to talk about that. It's funny, I just talked to your landlord. Isn't your landlord Michael Barber?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just talked to Michael Barber about this very thing about, you know, with Steve, because we spill all the dirt here. Steve is unemployed. And for some strange reason in America, they think unemployment insurance should run out, because I don't know why that is. In Germany it doesn't, in England it doesn't, here it does. So after 6 months, if you ain't got a job and you're a male over the age of 18 in California, because there, as you both know, there's no social programs for you. $118 a month in food stamps you could get, and $138 cash, and that's it. That's what you could get to be destitute here in Southern California, if you're over 18 and under 65 and not a woman with no dependent children. That sucks. There's no social safety net for average
Single men.
Single men.
I don't think they tell you that either. Like, I don't think it's offered like, hey, well, your insurance ran out.
Right.
Here's your other option.
Right. There are no other options.
Yeah.
They don't offer you. In fact, I have a friend who's chronically homeless, and the wait to get in a shelter is 2 months, but the amount of time they'll give you in an emergency shelter is 3 days. So they'll put you up, or a week. So they'll put you up for 3 days or a week, but they can't get you a place for 2 months. And in between that week and the 2 months, they don't tell you there's no resource for you. Right. So Steve, let's start with you. You were working like so many others at an SEO company, and you're doing web design. You're also a DJ, and we can talk about that later. But you know, your main gig at the time was web design and everything. Company goes through changes. Suddenly, you don't have a job.
Right.
Over the time that you're unemployed, you try to get clients. You try to do what everybody does. You try to get by. You try to get new jobs. You try to approach headhunters. It doesn't work. 6 months later, all of a sudden, your income stops. And suddenly you have to go to, in this case, me, and say, I'm not going to have the rent on the first. That, I know for you, felt really bad. Because the one thing that you were always really good about was it was always there on the first, no matter what.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think my parents programmed in me from an early age is the rent is always got to be paid on the first, on time, before anything else. And that's how I live my life, you know?
Right.
No matter how hard things get,
Right.
the rent, the roof over your head is the most important thing.
And then one day
you
just
eat
don't
later.
have it. Yeah, and then one day you just don't have it.
Yes.
You know, and there's nothing to do. And I mean, I don't want to do this for the sake of television, but I think a lot of people can relate to when you went to unemployment and you found out the woman hadn't filed the proper paperwork and that a check may not be forthcoming. You all of a sudden you just didn't know. And your whole financial future, you just all of a sudden you did not know what was going to happen. And you said you just sat there in the car, you know, sort of like, what the hell do I do now?
Yeah.
I think so many Americans out there watching this can relate to that moment, that feeling.
I became numb for, I think, the next half hour.
Yeah. Well, until I got a joint in you, and, you know.
You know, I was literally paralyzed for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
I was
no,
thinking,
it sounded-
I was going over it through my head, what the hell am I going to do?
Right.
You know, it's already past the first. I had not paid the rent. And not to mention my car payment is due as well.
I mentioned Michael Barber only because Michael Barber's a landowner. And I said to him, you know, you're a nice person. And because I know him to be. Maybe some people think he's an a-hole, but other people, you know, people think I'm an a-hole, whatever, you know. To me, he's always been a great guy. And I said, I know that you don't want to make people homeless. That's not on your agenda. Neither do I. But at the same time, I can't carry this house on myself. I can't. And he can't carry his apartment complexes on his own. He doesn't have the float, the funds. And so there comes a point where you have to make really hard decisions. And I don't think people realize that it's as hard for the landlord or for the roommate as it is the person going through it. Because unless you're really a mean person, you know, you can understand what plight they're in. And you don't want to do anything to make them to harm them. You want to help them. But then what can you do? You, same story, right? You lost your job.
Got laid off, yep.
And then the 6 months of unemployment, you know, does its thing.
Yeah, I got laid off in October, finally got the insurance. The first, I think, insurance check was end of November. And
it's a remarkably ridiculous amount.
All right.
I went from $100,000 a year at KGO to 18,500 for a whole year on unemployment.
It's hard to swallow.
Yeah, they expected me to survive on minus $90,000.
Yeah, and one of the things is they have where you can take taxes out.
Yeah.
But you need that $90.
You're already making nothing.
You need that $90, so you're kind of looking at the 6 months ahead, like.
And you have a tax liability.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that's going on through this whole thing, but yeah. So I just like Stephen, I had it ended in May, right before his apparently.
And do you have a family out here or
Colorado?
So Colorado. So you're out here. This is it. I'd have been so grateful if my friends who were taking me out and spending $200 on lunch would have just given me $50. Before you take someone out, if you think you're doing them a favor because they might have cash problems, ask them first if they would rather have the money. It may seem awkward at first. They'll be really grateful afterwards.
That's a great idea.
Right? No, really. Isn't that someone came to pick you up and said, let's go to lunch. Wouldn't you just say, just give me the $20?
I have turned down people just to say that, oh, I'm busy that day.
But you really didn't have the money.
But I really wasn't.
My Dan Zamora used to always come and take me to lunch. He goes, don't worry, I'm paying. I'll never forget when I finally got back on my feet where I could say, I'm paying. It felt so good. It felt so good. Thank you, guys. Y'all send subscriptions. That way I can pay for more, okay? ReallyKarel.com.
Something gets out